Also, a candidate that's prepared, that's done some research beforehand, that has done some research about the company, that knows company values, that maybe knows a little bit about some news that has happened to the company recently. Those candidates really stand out to me. If a candidate spouted off one of my company's values during the interview, I'd be impressed. I don't think that there's an over preparation aspect at all. You don't want to bring in a candidate that wasn't the right fit and then end up separating from that employee later. That's a huge blow to the employee. It's a huge blow to the company, but it is a really fine line, and it's something that you have to weigh. And even if it means consolidating interviews into one, there's a lot of ways to do it, but I definitely think in this market, you have to be as fast as possible and keep those interview processes under 3 weeks, probably max.
Good morning. So today I've called with us who is an experienced talent acquisition leader with experience demonstrated history of filling roles in the aerospace, software, and civic tech industries. He is skilled in full cycle recruiting, including sourcing, screening, and salary negotiation with a focus on candidate experience in diversity, equity, and inclusion. He believes in meeting stakeholder expectations and doing the right way, which is something that's so important because a lot of people claim that they're actually doing that, but a lot of people don't actually go through with their words. So let's welcome Cole on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where he will tell us what he's learned along the way and how we can learn from his learnings. Hi, Cole. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Manal?
Good. Thank you so much, Cole. So, Cole, can you tell us a little about your journey?
Yeah. So I spent the first part of my career in public service, working for a municipality. After some health challenges, I decided to do something that was a little bit easier on my body and moved into a recruiting role. A lot of folks will tell you, you've probably heard it before, that no one plans on being a recruiter when they get out of college or when they're in high school. And that's the same with me. I had a certain set of skills that I felt kind of aligned with recruiting. And so, I was looking for sales roles and kind of just fell into a recruiting role in the meantime. So, like you mentioned, after a little bit of time working at a staffing agency, recruiting for aerospace and defense roles, I moved into the corporate side. And since then, I've worked at a few companies, both at the individual contributor as well as in a leadership role. So currently, I'm at Vercel as the temporary head of recruiting, and really enjoying it.
Okay. I'm curious to mention, so no one really does choose recruiter as a pathway, but you mentioned that you had certain characteristics that made you feel like you could be a good fit for a recruiter. So what were those characteristics?
Yeah, so some of the characteristics I felt that I'm very strong at would be people skills. I think having drive and grit are both very important when it comes to recruiting, and so initially, I was looking at sales roles, and in that same job search, I found roles that were like sales/recruiting, and so that's how I found recruiting. Did some research, did a few interviews, and haven't looked back since.
Okay. I mean, I think it's very important that you mentioned that people skills, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, AI is going to take over the world and stuff like that. But I think being human and understanding humans at the end of the day is not something that robots could do. And it's something that would essentially make you stand out compared to other people who might not have as strong people skills. So it's definitely very important. A follow-up question for that, Cole, would be, so you've seen recruitment, you've been in the recruitment space for quite a while. You must have seen the changes that have happened in recruitment, specifically pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah.
How have things changed? What is something that made you think like, oh, wow, things are changing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I would say before the pandemic, we definitely were in a place, or it felt like to me, like we were in a place where we weren't necessarily an employer market, and we also weren't a candidate market. The pandemic really turned that on its head, and for a while there were a lot of layoffs, it seemed, and so it was very easy for the company that I was looking for to find fantastic talent that unfortunately had been let go from their roles. Over the last year, though, we've seen a complete reverse in that, and now it is very much a candidate-driven market. We're seeing the Great Resignation. We're seeing, compensation expectations go kind of through the roof. And so if you're any employee in the tech space, especially, like I think all of us have. I don't think there's anyone that hasn't considered looking at other opportunities, just considering how crazy the market is. And I'm sure many of us have seen, all of our inboxes in LinkedIn and how filled they are with recruiter messages. So it is definitely a different environment out there, and people are really looking for the perfect fit for them, whether that's compensation, whether that's a place where they feel included and feel seen, or maybe it's like a leadership role where they wouldn't have necessarily experienced that growth at their previous company. There's something for everyone right now.
That is true. That is true. I think the tables have turned, and I think part of it is because I think a lot of people might be looking for something just more than compensation. I think a lot of people want that sense of purpose, that sense of fulfillment, and they're starting to question what they want, what they believe in. And I think remote work definitely allowed people to self-respect and understand what they want. So that's been important. But I'd love to understand from your perspective, from a recruiter perspective, what is something that makes a candidate stand out in the market these days?
Yeah, to me, a candidate, like you kind of mentioned, those soft skills really stand out. I mean, like I said, if you are a candidate looking for a job, you're probably going to find something. But if you really want that job that you like, that's your dream job, having those soft skills is super important. Also, a candidate that's prepared, that's done some research beforehand, that has done some research about the company, that knows company values, that maybe knows a little bit about some news that has happened to the company recently. Those candidates really stand out to me. And that would be some advice that I would definitely give to candidates who are looking currently, just to spend 30 minutes before an interview or before you write a cover letter to really gear your experience and like what you know towards like what is going to be aligned to what the employer is looking for.
Okay, I think in the past when I was applying for jobs myself, I think I didn't want to do too much research on the company because I'd be like, I don't want to go and memorize things and be like, oh my God, this is what happened, A, B, C, D, E. And the client would be like, did you actually just memorize everything? So how do you create that fine line between doing too much research and coming off across as you've memorized everything and actually showcase that you're actually interested in the company, what the company is doing, and how you could add value to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly, I don't think that I would ever, if a candidate like spouted off one of my company's values during the interview, I'd be impressed. Like, I don't think that there's an over preparation aspect at
Okay.
all. With that said, I don't think employers should expect candidates to know everything there is to know about that company. Just as we're talking, it's a candidate market. And so that candidate might be speaking with 10 other employers, and that's okay. And so there shouldn't be an expectation that they know. But if you do want to stand out as a candidate, knowing just a few details that might set you apart is going to make a huge difference.
Okay. No, thank you for sharing that. I think I can definitely take advice from that and actually start over preparing than just going in and be like, I shouldn't have memorized those things. So thank you for sharing that, Cole. I will take a note of that. Last question, Cole, would be for you. That is, a lot of companies used to have these long hiring steps where they used to have like 6, 7 steps, 7, 8 rounds. And candidates used to be in the market, but these days, usually if a company has such long processes, by the time they reach out to the candidate might already have accepted another offer. So how has the experience been within your company right now? What are they doing to make sure that they keep the candidates still interested, but make sure that the process is elaborate enough to make sure that you find the right fit?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. There's several things you have to weigh. You don't want to bring in a candidate that wasn't the right fit and then end up separating from that employee later. That's a huge blow to the employee. It's a huge blow to the company. But at the same time, you want to do just enough to where you are very confident that this person is going to be the right fit for the role. And not spend too much time gauging for the same set of competencies. So, doing 6 technical interviews when maybe 1 or 2 would be enough. That's really going to put you in a place where these candidates are getting offers before you're even able to get through your interview process. But it is a really fine line, and it's something that you have to weigh. And even if it means consolidating interviews into one, There's a lot of ways to do it, but I definitely think in this market, you have to be as fast as possible and keep those interview processes under 3 weeks, probably max.
No, I think I completely agree. We were working with a client recently and we submitted like 3 candidates and they were slow. I think it took them like 7 days to get feedback. And by the time they reached out to the candidates for an interview, the candidates had already accepted a job offer. So it's interesting how fast things are moving and how important it is to make sure that you secure the best talent just because someone else will. It's as in like it's as simple as that. So thank you for sharing that, Cole. But Cole, other than that, our time is up. We like to keep things short. It was an absolute pleasure learning about you, your journey, how you got out into recruitment, even though that was not the path you decided that you would go after. Life has a funny way of making things happen, and here you are working for a company and doing something that you're passionate about. Thank you so much, Cole.
Yep, thank you.